Hello, Trucks.
Trucks.
Happy New Year. It's January 17th. Biden hasn't been inaugurated yet. We're still living in the old world.
Indeed.
Tough.
Is a time capsule from the before times. I would like to give a shout out to the two people who asked me what happened to Trucks.
What happened to Trucks?
Well, we did a Mumble Squad.
That's what happened.
And then we didn't do a Trucks for a while. So now it's Trucks. And traditionally at the end of the year, we do an end of the year review Trucks, where we talk about all of the, our favorite things that we saw and did over the course of the year. Well, there wasn't a lot.
Not a whole lot.
No, this was, we don't need to be the 90 millionth media outlet / conventional wisdom group chat that tells you that this was a bad time. I don't think we need to be bringing you that news, but contrary to to what folks tend to say about times of hardship do not actually tend to produce good art. Mm-hmm. It's one of those stories about, you suffer for your art, but moments of cultural disaster actually don't tend to make people particularly creatively productive. It tends to make people sad and scared. Not to mention all of the financial reasons that, very little, in the way of music and movies and stuff got released during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So
unless your name is Momus, of course.
Unless your name is what?
Momus.
Oh, yes. That was my album of the year. Kind of by default was Momus's Vivid, which was about the pandemic.
Kind of just a glaring... I think we've already talked about it on this channel, but just a glaring exception. It's kind of remarkable how he just processed the pandemic into a great work of art. Only a few months into it.
It'll be interesting to see how that ages. I mean, I feel like it's going to be a decent time capsule, but there is no denying that his songwriting is, it was not a lazy piece of work.
No.
That album. And turns out he's a great songwriter.
Yeah.
I should announce, by the way, that there will be a Trucks Momus covers album coming out soon.
Yep.
It's actually very close to being completed.
Finishing touches.
And the big lesson that we've learned from doing this, at least that I've learned, and that everybody else who has either participated or tried to participate and given up, is that his music is very complicated.
There's a lot of chords in there, dude.
He's not your straightforward pop, singer. So I pretty much relied on approximation or reimagining / dumbing down of most of the stuff that I made for this.
Yeah, I did so much, just listening to each measure of the reference track in my Ableton timeline, on loop, trying to do the chords by ear.
I mean, I'm incredibly impressed with some of the stuff that you've pulled out for this.
Thanks.
I will tell you this, folks, if we're talking about 2020 was a year when Josh really came into his own music-wise. And I think it's a process that's just starting, IMO. But it turns out that our boy is talented. I mean, we all knew this, but I just thought that it should be acknowledged on this platform.
Kind of a backhanded compliment there, though.
Oh, fuck off!
Yeah,
I said we all knew this right after I said it.
Yeah, it's the starting part.
I took the sting out of it immediately.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've been having fun. Mm-hmm. I actually do have something to say to the notion of how that album is aging, the Momus album.
Uh-huh.
Because it is already clear some of the ways in which his, early anticipations about what the pandemic would be like were a little off. That track "Empty Paris" about all the empty cities.
Yep.
That wasn't the reality for very long. But I think it works. I would like to think that this is what would be true of all of the tracks, is that there was already something heightened about it, he refers to things that were always a bit fictional, us resorting to subsistence farming and arguing with an overhead drone ordering you to go home. So I think the album lives pretty comfortably in a sort of heightened heightened pastiche of the pandemic experience.
That's true. We also, I mean, if you were a European, you might have lived in that world for a little bit longer and repeatedly. Yeah. I know that the UK is again in a strict lockdown right now. I mean, obviously not with the drones and the subsistence farming, but like with the, severe curfews and people taking it very seriously and all of that stuff.
Excuse me, I have had a flu shot and it's giving me mega cold symptoms. He also wrote, like, fucking back in March or April or whatever it was, he wrote a song about, like, just September bleeding into November, and that track, like, is eerily accurate to what that experience has been like.
Yeah, that was prescient as balls right there. I mean, it is interesting to me if we're segueing into talking about the pandemic experience, which we haven't spent, I think, a whole lot of times on Time on Trucks talking about, like the fact that I have been employed at a job that never stops, has sort of given me a different, it's basically just added a couple of difficulty points to my already existing life. For the most part, I was already pretty, socially isolated. I was already, working a lot and doing my best to keep distance from people while I was working. And this sort of just, it's been heightened this year, compared to the pre-pandemic thing. It's just more, but more so, which is, I think, not necessarily a typical experience. Outside of course, the disruption that it's caused to all of my, beloved media entertainments. It really did a number on pro wrestling, man. It's been hard to enjoy pro wrestling this year. Turns out big, raucous live crowds are kind of essential to the alchemy of that art form for the most part. Mm-hmm. With a few, there are exceptions. You can have very arty wrestling matches in front of like a sparse or respectfully quiet crowd, but that's not really how it's done most of the time. And so watching various promotions trying to cope with how to do it without that has been, a thing.
Yeah. I remember very early on people were commenting that it had a character of absurdist theater, the dead quiet, the complete inability to build any sort of heat.
That was before they had worked out what they were going to do about it, which was to pipe in an enormous amount of fake noise.
Great. That sounds absurdist in a different way.
Oh, the Thunderdome, the WWE Thunderdome, where the action is watched by a enormous flat screen panel of various people on their webcams who are not actually reacting to what is currently happening, but are sort of looped and recycled continuously.
That's
something.
I mean, wrestling conspiracy theorists were talking about them piping in cheering sounds even before these times.
What, in wrestling?
Yeah, like just
that's not a conspiracy theorist thing. That is 100% true.
Okay.
I mean, crowd sweetening is a thing in all professional wrestling, and has been. I mean, and in pretty much every other kind of live entertainment, if you're not getting the reaction that you want. But
now the whole thing is.
Now the whole thing is sweetener, and it's pretty much given Vince McMahon his ideal environment where he gets to do what he wants and then make the crowd react exactly in the way that he wants.
And they never do anything interesting with it. I'm guessing it's
the ratings have never been lower.
They cheer when they're supposed to, and they boo when they're supposed to, and that's it. Am I right?
Pretty much.
Bummer.
Yeah, but that aside, I mean, nobody should be watching WWE anyway.
Yeah.
As Lyndon McMahon has, gone all in on Trump. So, nobody should be interacting with that company at all at this point.
There have been certain upsides to my pandemic life. We are a little lucky in that Monica has got to hold on to her job and to her paycheck without hardly having to actually do it. There have been multiple rounds of layoffs at her company, but her boss took some steps to make her indispensable. Thank goodness. We sure owe that lady a lot. And Monica and I have gotten to hang out for most of every day. That's been kind of nice. Definitely
Cool.
takes the
So-
edge off.
No, none of that sort of cabin fever murdery, quality that people talk about, or
Not much.
it's excellent news.
Yeah, it's funny. Us, we used to be together, now we're just friends, but it kind of feels like we've never been closer nonetheless. It's a nice thing.
Well, all I can say is dang. I mean, that's something that one would, something that one hopes to achieve, I suppose.
Yeah.
I've never been particularly good at stabilizing that kind of relationship with an ex, but then again, I don't tend to live with mine, so.
Yeah, it depends on the ex. I don't think me and my other exes would quite slot so nicely into this situation.
Yes. The pandemic has been making me think about my current lifestyle, which, as I've mentioned, is very isolated. And, even though the downtick in in-person social interaction hasn't been, particularly extreme because there wasn't that much to begin with, there has been some. And, now that I sort of have this more stable job and, a kind of a life that is certainly sustainable, if not necessarily going anywhere, I'm thinking, well, do I want it to go anywhere now that seems like an option? In much the same way that a lot of the things like, actual long-term dental care, which I could never afford before, but I can now, do I want to fix my teeth finally as I near 40? Do I want to be a 40-year-old wearing braces? And that kind of question. It's like, as more options open, more questions arise, which has nothing to do with, the situation as it stands, but certainly, I have a lot of time by myself to think about these kinds of things.
Are you arriving at any conclusions?
I kind of want to talk to a professional about it, but it turns out it's really hard to find a therapist during this particular time when you work irregular hours, at least around here. Most people have politely declined to take me on who I've contacted.
Annoying.
So perhaps I just need to look harder.
Yeah. My therapist's situation has developed a lot this year. I'm on the pills, and they have been helpful, although certain unfortunate side effects are coming to light.
Sleep stuff?
Sex drive stuff.
Oh.
Just deleted it appears, which is... It's one of those, like, possible side effects you read about and go, yeah, but that won't happen to me. And then it does, and you're like, huh, well, what am I gonna do about that? So I might have to switch pills.
Embrace your new enlightened self, I suppose.
Yeah, you know what? Like, there was a time in my life when I was like, it would be kind of nice to just get rid of the sex drive. It would probably mostly just save me a lot of. This was depression, brain stuff, I guess. But
yeah,
even so, there's a certain the Vulcan side of the brain sees a certain appeal to it, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's mostly just a drag, actually.
I guess that's sort of like saying, oh boy, it sure would be easier to manage your weight if you had no sense of taste. Life would be better.
Yeah. It's hard to find the words for it because, you would think that the term sex drive would contain the desire to have a sex drive, but no, there's some other preconscious component to it that...
Yeah. It just goes to show how, like, mixed up and wiggly all of the precursors to that's, are really. Like,
yeah,
all of the different things that can make you want. And that's not just the body.
Yeah. Sucks, though, because the pills have been helpful, so, I guess it's a matter of... I like folks who when I say folks, I mean my very dear friend who's been doing this for a very long time, doesn't take it all the time. Because it's not... I think you're on... do you want to go into what you're actually on here? Yeah, right now I'm on long-acting methylphenidate 20 milligrams.
Which is Adderall?
It's more
Or
like
Ritalin.
Ritalin.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So that's not like one of those things with like an SSRI where you go into withdrawals and get zaps if you don't take it like regularly.
There is potential addictive potential to it. It is, it's meth.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not like, I mean, I'm not speaking about addiction so much as the way that, like, with SSRIs, you have to be careful getting on them and coming off of them because
I
of
see.
what they do to your brain.
As far as I know, it's not like that.
Whereas this is more like, with my friend, they take it when they know that they are going to need to do stuff and then lay off it when they don't.
Yeah. It's a little tougher with the long acting. Because it is kind of like, am I going to be on it today at all or not at all?
Right. Well, that it is a day-to-day thing, right? But that also helps it retain its efficacy and all of that. And so
Yeah.
You might experiment with that, but I'm absolutely not a doctor, and you should talk to yours before you do that kind of stuff because I don't know what this drug is, and it might work completely differently.
My doctor, who still repeatedly assures me that she knows nothing about any of this.
I mean, the whole saga of you're getting medicated is I don't know if you want to get into that, but like, oh my God, it's just infuriating, as it always is when,
Yeah.
It's like, I'm trying to get help for this chronic issue. Well, in addition to the chronic issue making it harder to get help for this chronic issue by itself, also, like, nobody, the system is designed to keep people out unless they keep trying and keep trying and keep trying because of money and because of worries about, people who take this sort of drug recreationally. And it's just like, or just people simply not believing what you're saying is true.
Yeah.
It's fucking infuriating.
Or just having petty personal discomfort with it, which they decide to make my problem.
How unbelievably fucking infuriating that, like, a person's, personal weird qualms about brain stuff, as a fucking professional brain doctor can interfere with your ability to get access to medication that you need. God damn.
I was talking with a friend about it who put it quite well and said, this is not a field that prudes should be working in.
No. Puritans should not be, in charge of doling out brain drugs, for Christ's sake. If your default response is you probably don't need them, that shouldn't be your job.
Yeah. Unless it's an antidepressant. She's very not prudish about handing out antidepressants.
And those have, like, terrible side effects, can I just say. I mean, not that I'm saying that, like, but in terms of, like, personal danger, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I think we just got fucked.
Yes, it seems that way. Well,
hopefully not too fucked.
I don't know. I guess we'll just have to.
Jeez. Hold on.
We'll have to come up with some stuff to talk about this year about. I don't know how we're going to manage that. That's not too bad, is it?
We're not obeying this because it's telling me to do a loop around to the same entrance that just failed. So what we're going to do instead, we have to figure out how to get onto this highway. Here, I think now I can follow my GPS.
Dreams. Yep, that works. Well, that adds a moment or two to this.
Indeed. What else this year? Okay, to cap this discussion off, I will just say that despite the ridiculous dog and pony show this has been, I am at least now in the process trying pills. The therapist has mostly not the therapist, the psychiatrist has mostly relented in terms of her prudishness, and even if I'm not too confident that she'll have good advice to offer me about this particular complication, I think I can at least say, why don't we try switching it to Adderall and see if that's any different, and it might just work out. So,
yeah,
wish me luck.
I'd recommend it, or I'd recommend trying it, or just plain old Ritalin.
I think methylphenidate and Ritalin are mostly identical.
Okay, I do not claim to be an expert. Just having been around people who've dealt with it their whole lives, but also having a terrible memory. So
I continue to
be half-remembered information a lot of the time.
Yeah, I continue to be cautiously optimistic.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, as far as like stuff of the year goes,
I'm receiving a phone call. I have to pause for a sec.
Okay.
Might be important. Hello. We're back. Nothing happened.
Are we? Are we back?
We're back. We're
We're
starting
back.
from gear one right here on the highway off ramp.
All kinds of stuff happened, but it's cool. It's it's been a challenging trucks, just like it was a challenging year, but we're making it through, and that's
we're making it through. It's all fine. You guys, it's you. I hope are still just enjoying watching it. The stuff of life has a sucker, or a sucker, or whatever that word is.
I
whether
think it's sucker, yeah.
Yeah, kind of just no matter what, it's all content, baby.
Exactly. Thanks, suckers. So, I think what I was about to start to talk about was more media stuff from the year.
You got some?
Yeah. It's mostly like just like looking around stuff that is in my immediate vicinity that I enjoyed. One extra fun thing about 2020 was that I feel like the number of people who've now proven themselves definitively to be assholes and therefore like unworthy of having their stuff enjoyed has increased rapidly, and not all of it because of their COVID behavior, but just because there was a lot of random twitchy call out stuff this year because everybody's been so frustrated and on edge.
Yeah.
I
Just gonna
hate to
double
tell
check
you
that my map is right.
Yeah,
we're good. What do you hate to tell me?
It's Chris Jericho, it turns out.
I guess it's not a surprise.
It's not really, but
his band did play. Go ahead.
His band did play a super spreader event. That's part one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was gonna ask if it was beyond.
He's
the
also
level
been
where...
outed. He's also been outed as a huge Trump donor.
Yeah, fuck. I mean, it's so in character. But
yeah.
What I was gonna ask was whether it was beyond the level where he could still be sort of a charming, problematic fave, and I don't know. It's so unsurprising that part of me wants to say, "Who cares?" But the super spreader thing is just a little hard to forgive. That's you rack up a body count when you do that.
Yeah. Now he's not lost his job or anything like that. He's not canceled. But it's just one of those unfortunate things when one enjoys enjoys an art form where a lot of the people are pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Which is most art forms, I think. But I actually wanted to say that one thing, there are a couple of things that I have sort of enjoyed getting into this year. VTubers, that was one of them.
Yep.
We discussed that last week, and that continues to be good. 2 months ago, and that continues to be, at least at this point, and that continues to be good value for your click, in my opinion. I really enjoyed a post that was going around by a former QAnon
not my
person
fault.
Who was basically just I was really isolated and depressed, and I didn't have anybody in this group welcomed me in, and I was sort of getting into it, and then I found Gargura, the Shark Girl YouTuber, and that community was also welcoming and less toxic, and so I went that way. But I would totally have become a massive QAnon cultist if I hadn't found VTubers, and it just goes to show, really.
It's just wherever you find yourself, that's where you are.
Exactly. I shouldn't have been so. When I said I'm watching these VTuber clips, and actually I was listening to the Castle Super Beast podcast, which, if you can stand what an asshole Pat is a good time also. And presumably you can stand that because you can stand listening to me. But the Pat and I had Last Trucks, I think it was Last Trucks I went off of, Banjo-Kazooie, and Pat did exactly the same thing, in an episode of Castle Super Beast last month. But anyway, they were talking about how, just clicking on some VTuber stuff screwed up my YouTube recommendations, by putting me in line of all of this fashy content, and which as an indictment of YouTube, not as an indictment of VTubers. But I did mention that when we did our VTuber stuff, how suddenly there's peppies all over my YouTube recommendations, And isn't it about fucking time that they fix that, might I add? Like, take some responsibility for the way their algorithm behaves. But
they'll never do it.
It turns out that connection is maybe, it turns out the pull of being a decent person in front of your imaginary internet girlfriend might actually outweigh the pull of becoming a neo-Nazi. So
this is where we're at. This is politics in 2020.
It's all fun. It's all fun.
Well, isn't it great that in just 3 days, people are going to be listening to this tracks and be like, they're still talking from Trump's world, or any of what they're talking about still made any sense at all, and everything's going to completely transform just in a week from now, unrecognizable. You remember how it felt like stepping into a different and a much worse world when Trump won, and isn't it wonderful how much it now feels like we're stepping out of that world finally once and for all? I'm being
you joke.
I sure do.
You joke, but like, I had the bizarre experience a few days ago of logging onto the old Twitter and like scrolling down at least a page and a half before I saw anything negative. Like, and that wasn't a lack of political news. That was me reading about how Biden's stimulus bill has a federal minimum wage increase to $15 and eliminates the tipping loophole and the disability under minimum wage goodwill, employing slave labor loophole.
It's good news.
And I was like, that is good news, actually. It's like, what the hell is happening? And that we're going to have like an actual federal vaccine rollout, which we could have had and should have had and didn't. And, all that stuff, which, and God knows how much of that'll materialize, but there is a slight change of,
Oh, definitely.
There is a little bit of a change in the air, mood-wise. And of course, I'm with everybody who's like, we got to continue to hold Biden's feet to the fire. But I, for one, was not expecting him to go in right away with like deficit spending, give all of the money to the people, being his sort of opening position, given that the incredibly low expectations that we have had for him. So
I'm gonna believe it when I see it with a lot of this stuff. But
as I said, I'm not at all confident that any of this will materialize, because of course it all has to go through the goddamn political process to get out the other end. But I'm feeling certainly a little bit more optimistic than I was a month ago.
Yeah.
So there is that.
It sure has been a long election year. That's another.
It has been a long election
thing
year
to reflect upon.
It was lost in the riots, which we haven't even talked about, although that technically happened in 2021. But the fact that the Senate got flipped to Democratic control by two senators from Georgia, a black man and a Jewish man, is so fucking bizarro world to begin with.
The GOP have been fucking it, and they've been fucking
they have
it
been.
hard.
Well, it turns out they were riding a sick horse.
Yeah.
But we're drifting off of the subject.
Are we?
I want to give a shout out to Tumblr user Junkworld USA, who is an artist of comics, who has sort of default state has a lot of Linda Berry energy, but is also just like clearly in the process of growing and developing into a real heavy hitter. They just put out a comic which is a sort of, it reminded me of Watchmen a little bit, and it's sort of claustrophobic, black and white. Well, Watchmen wasn't black and white, but it's sort of claustrophobic little panel approach, and it's just a sort of a dude monologuing over a set of TV images. And I thought, damn, I have not seen anything that is that ambitious in quite some time on the old comic internet. So a shout out to Junk World USA.
Shout out. I don't think I have that much media myself. I'm trying to think. One thing that does come to mind is those Tim Rogers videos. He got his start as an independent video maker this year, and you you seem to have like distanced yourself from these.
I'm not gonna say it's bad. I'm not gonna say there's anything wrong with it.
But you are gonna say that you can't take it.
I'm gonna say that I personally cannot take it. That is correct.
Yep, fair.
You've pretty much summed up my position on that.
I will, however, say for anyone unaware and who can
take it.
Do you
want to watch a 6-hour video about Tokimeki Memorial, the seminal Japanese dating sim game?
Highly recommend watching it in installments.
While this man sort of creepily stares at you and talks in a way that's just slightly off kilter.
It's a bit. It is a bit.
In a way that you're not entirely sure whether he's being serious or not.
There's if you watch him do a Twitch stream in which he's still kind of a weird guy, but he's definitely much more normal than he is in his scripted videos. It's like, it's clear, it's a bit.
If you want 6 hours straight of that bit, then boy,
it's a good.
I have something for you.
It's a good bit, man. He's funny and he's smart, and it's a good bit. And, here's for those not aware, Tim Rogers, Action Button YouTube channel. He's not all of his videos have been perfect, but they've all been good. And the Tokimeki Memorial video in particular, don't worry if you've never heard of the game. It's a grand slam. It's a grand slam piece of games criticism. It's the real shit. It's quite long. It's got a lot of jokes in it, but it's good. It's good. I would recommend it if you're interested in various different things. If you're interested in narrative design, if you're interested in graphic design, if you're interested in just games history, if you're interested in just getting a really deep read on a game you've never played and probably will never play unless you can speak Japanese. Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Just why not?
It is. I will say that it is incredibly on brand for this, for the trucks, space and the kind of stuff that we're interested in. I imagine that people who like trucks will also like this.
Yeah.
It just turns out that
you're not a part of your own audience.
He reminds me of, it's too close. It gives me some trouble on that level. But you know how that is sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Literally too close, like he lives or lived in your neighborhood.
Yeah, I street passed him a couple times, and his little dog.
In the same way that Dorothy Gambrell lives like a few blocks away from you, it turns out.
Who?
Author of Cat and Girl, a webcomic I've been reading for almost 20 years. Lives up the street from you.
Didn't know.
Yeah, I've mentioned it a few times, but that's the return address on the Patreon shit that I get. I don't think I street passed her though, or fitted it and recognized her. She's not really, she's not in front of a camera like this dude. But
yeah. Do I have any other media? There was a One of Trick's Point Never album this year that I was really prepared to love, and then I didn't. So, oh well.
Yeah, that's been true of a fair number of releases, unfortunately.
It's been a good year for going back to stuff. I went back to The Witness. I went back to Hexcells. Recently, I've gone back to Bloodborne. Monica's playing Dark Souls for the first time on the Switch. When she beat the gargoyles for the first time, she yelled, "This is drugs!" And this is
What have you done? What have you done, Josh?
This is her first game with a 3D camera, so no small feat there.
Yeah, not at all. I remember that you tried to do this with me, and I was like, nope.
Yeah.
So I thoroughly endorse this, and I'm very impressed. Monica is just full of interesting new skills.
Yeah. The year of becoming a gamer. We all transform into gamers in this never-ending 2020.
I probably played more Noida than anything else this year.
Noida's a good game.
Noida is a good game.
It's been overshadowed. I think it was on our last year-end roundup, but man, it actually came out this year, and it's been overshadowed by Spelunky 2. But Spelunky 2 is cool. I think Noida is better.
I certainly have not felt the need to play Spelunky 2. I've also speaking of Noida, I've played it for almost 60 hours, and I've yet to beat it once.
It's hard.
Have you ever beaten it?
I've barely. I think I've made it to like the bunker zone under the snowy level exactly one time.
Right. Yeah. No, I've been further, but holy shit, it is so punishing.
Yeah.
It is so difficult.
my brother, who's good at this kind of thing, tells me that if you want to have like a good playthrough, you need to focus less on building spells that are good guns and more on like wild utility shit. And
that is the sense that I get, and I think we mentioned this before. I'm just not smart enough.
Yeah, it takes some smarts. It takes some like real mad scientist shit in the lab between levels, just revising your wands and figuring out what all the possibilities are. There's a lot to it. It really, like, more than, I think I've probably said before that I'm always on the lookout for good wizard games, games that really capture the wizardness. You don't want, and that, you don't want games that just, like, give you, like, here's your list of spells, because that's not wizard shit. That's just, that's schoolboy shit. That's fake wizard shit. Wizard shit is about really developing arcane knowledge, and like learning about the mysteries of the universe. And Noida taps into it. Noida taps into it big time.
All the tinkering, but no, I'm still I mean the sad fact about me is that even in these roguelikes, like what I will build toward tends to be gun.
Yeah.
And put all of my effort into being a glass cannon, basically, which is just not a good strategy for this game specifically, but it does mean that I play it a lot.
Yeah.
Because I still haven't won.
And like you always get a slightly different gun. There's a magic to it.
That is true. And let's see, what other games have I played this year? Rogue Legacy 2 is slowly coming out. That the actual release of that will be this year, but it is an improvement on Rogue Legacy 1. And I liked Rogue Legacy 1, so that's something. Mm-hmm. Did you ever play Rogue Legacy?
A little. It didn't really capture me.
Yeah, it's Metroidvania, roguelike. And I like those things. They go together. It is not an arty style in any, and like the world building and lore is dry toast.
Yeah.
But they do a good bouncy bounce, swing the sword, and I'm good with that.
I think Hylix 2 came out in 2020. That's a wonderful game. That it really completed the statement of Hylix 1 also. I'm gonna make a video essay about it someday.
I enjoyed watching y'all play it. I found I guess I just didn't have the patience for roguelike gameplay. JRPG gameplay at the particular moment that I tried it. But
it was an interesting
I did buy it after watching you guys stream it. That was fun.
It's real art, that's for sure. There's an interesting contrast with the first and the second game, in that the first game, its JRPG combat is tuned to be incredibly undemanding, whereas the second game, if you play it on normal, it actually does require... It's quite a bit more demanding. You actually do have to think about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Both are good, though.
And another element of, like, an art game where challenge is part of the art.
Although it has an easy mode.
Yep. Challenge is both part of the art and optional. Speaking of which, they put there's a new Celeste DLC, I think, that came out. I don't actually know when it came out, whether that was this year or not, but it looks incredibly difficult. I have not tried it yet.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get through the B-sides.
Mm-hmm. What else? Speaking of, like, circling back to music, I've played a lot of music this year. I think I've gotten better at music this year. Part of the thing. The stuff that I've been putting out is not nearly as realized as the stuff that I was putting out before I worked, because like everything that I've done has been, or before I had this job, because everything I've done this in the last couple of years has been just me stealing a few hours on a weekend or whatever. I mean, which is not a million miles away from the usual way that I make music, because I have no patience or focus, but so I try to get everything done while the spirit is moving me. But it's been particularly arty and disjointed. Arty? messy, dirty, and disjointed this time around. But I've liked some of the stuff that I've made.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna wrangle it up into a real release at some point.
I think I haven't heard a lot of this stuff yet.
Yeah, it's all been on my Tumblr, but if you haven't been on there,
yeah, I'm not checking it every day.
Yeah, that is totally reasonable. And I should also like point out that like the vast majority, this has all been, a lot of it has been I make a song based on, something that somebody sends to my PO box, and it's now mostly Monica. So like I could put together an album of songs that's just stuff that I made from stuff that Monica sent me, and use every little bit of art that she created for that.
That's kind of a sweet little collaboration.
Yeah, and credit her properly also, because I have been posting these anonymously, but it should be clear to and even though it should be clear to everybody that it's mostly her work, that's never been made explicit. So I'm feeling kind of bad about that. So I should talk to her about that, and then and then put out a full album of that description. Just so long as we're doing admin while we very slowly creep toward the end of this. Hey, it's Roswell.
Yeah.
Shoutouts to Feth.
Hey, I was doing some spring cleaning in my room the other day, and I came across an old artifact, the old Tugboat Collective compilation CD.
Yeah, that was the music for the musical that never happened.
Yeah, some of which became Copper Look songs, right, if I recall?
Yeah, I think a few of them made the jump over there. My brother and I have been playing together again since we're living in the same city. We've only done it a couple of times because of COVID again, and sort of sitting on opposite sides of the room with masks on, playing guitar at each other. But we had a pretty productive session last week, so there might be movement on that side too. The moment right now feels very pregnant with possibility. I'll say that, like in terms of my own life, and yours, and I guess the whole Trucks household is feeling a little bit fertile at the moment.
It may be the whole world. It is the dawning of the age of Aquarius, after all.
That is true. Kuru / whatever you want to call him, did say that we are moving out of the Earth Age into the, I've probably got this wrong.
I think you're right. Out of the Earth Age and into the Air Age.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe everybody's feeling a little lighter. It's as fine a way to understand the universe as any. Yeah. Although his tweets have been growing increasingly bizarre recently, so maybe he's flying a little bit.
Have you been hanging out in his Patreon Discord? I think
Kuru's
fine.
I've not been doing that.
I think with it appears that with more whatever. I'm not gonna say that, but he's got a good sense of humor in the tweets, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, of course. If I'm alleging that somebody's losing their mind, I will say that. Whether it's Tim Rogers or... Is that his name, Tim Rogers?
That's his name.
It's such a normal name for such an incredibly strange human being.
It does kind of have an action hero ring to it.
It does. Tim Rogers.
Yeah.
His superpower is that he will play through this game 22 different times.
His actual superpower is that he'll remember everything. He is Funes the Memorious.
God damn, what a life. I could use some of that as I think the cocktail of depression, trauma, and anxiety, and weed, which I take a lot of to combat the previous three things, has really left my short-term and long-term memory even more in tatters than it has ever been.
To hear Tim talk about it doesn't sound like a lot of fun to remember everything.
Exactly. I wouldn't want to. I would not want to, but I would like a little bit more, because I do tend to do the thing where I block out information because it was a bad time getting it that would be helpful in avoiding future mistakes.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to have to contend with all of it all the time. That sounds miserable.
Yeah. He talks in one bit about how he is, as a result of like being, prone to kind of being thrown into recollections that feel like just experiencing things in real time again. Trying to
bad.
Endeavoring to lead as uninteresting a life as possible. and who knows to what extent that's a joke when he says it, but
still,
I can sense the truth in it for sure.
Whew. Man, I wouldn't want to live in Brooklyn if I had that going on. You're gonna get somebody else's bodily fluids on you at some point, and you're just gonna have that experience with you forever.
Oh, I had a gross thing happen with a roach. I probably won't say it on the air. I'll tell you afterwards.
Best not to. That's. I've talked to Monica about this. It's like I miss living with you guys.
Sure.
Obviously I do, and I miss New York. I miss living with you guys more than I miss living in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that, but. I sure don't miss our little friends. My kitchen is entirely free of their presence, and hopefully will be for the rest of time.
They're a little more under control right now than they have been, but we'll never fully defeat them.
No, it's a. I still remember the day when it was my brother's lovely wife brought all unknowing brought a shoebox full of roaches in, and that was just it.
That's what happened? No fucking way.
Yeah. No, really.
But they're all over the building now. They can't all be her fault. God damn it.
I'm not saying that it's all, but I'm saying I think that's certainly where their presence in our apartment started.
I
mean, we always had the big ones in the hall.
Yeah.
That predates that, but like. Sorry, folks, for spending the end of what is turning into a very long track talking about our cockroach experience. Call this getting back into the groove,
I feel like you shouldn't have told me that, because I had been like considering it just like a blameless ordeal.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I don't think that you can. I don't think you can blame her for it, and it's possible that the roaches colonized that box once it was, already in our space, but really that was the turning point, I feel.
Terrifying.
So let's see, do I have any closings? Wait a minute, how far away are we here?
Not far, but not that close either.
It's really a shame that because one of the unfortunate effects of the attempted fascist takeover of our government is that Joe can't take the Amtrak to his inauguration now. I would have enjoyed that. I thought that would have been good, but apparently he can't anymore because of security reasons.
Yeah, I hear there's
some if you want something negative, like everybody's saying in before this is used as a pretext to even further tighten our security surveillance state.
Oh, totally. Very likely.
Yes, and which will, of course, be, as we saw with the behavior of the police during the riot, will be used disproportionately against people who the state consider undesirable rather than against the actual threats to our democracy. But
y'all, did we want something negative? Did we want that?
No, I guess. I mean, I don't want to come out of this sounding like a Biden fan. I mean,
yeah, sure.
People might get the wrong idea.
There's things to complain about in the stimulus bill. If you want to complain about them, we could complain about them. But why complain about them? I guess people already know.
We'll see how it turns out. It's like, as I think as I've probably mentioned before, we had at the start of Obama's presidency, we had the full House, as it were. We had the House and the Senate and the executive, and admittedly, the Republicans weren't, as fucked as they are right now, because they hadn't spent the last 4 years increasingly doubling down on a person who turned out to be a liability for them. But I was like, what's the most gentle way that I can say this? But we got one bill. We got the healthcare bill, and that bill sucked and continues to suck out of that. So A, with any luck, lessons learned from that experience, but B, if we get one thing through, I'd like it to be the Voting Rights Act bill, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act bill. That's because you saw what happened.
Yeah.
It's like this entire situation stems from like, oh my God, why can't I remember her name? That's incredibly embarrassing. The woman in Georgia, the Supernatural fan, it failed, gubernatorial candidate who then turned around and was like, I'm going to single-handedly undo all of the voter suppression that you're doing.
Yes.
Stacey Abrams. Thank
That's
God. That would have been extremely embarrassing.
I wanted to say Stacey Abrams, but I didn't want to be wrong, so give me the appropriate number of points for that.
I'll give you props. God, we are really moving into Texas here, aren't we?
Yeah. Texas is not even in the game, but we haven't mentioned it. We're going to end up right on the border of Texas and New Mexico.
Yeah, this is all very this is all very much where it is.
We've never been here before.
Yeah, but if it weren't for her like unbelievable superhuman efforts to like fight in one state, all of the voter suppression shit that they were doing in that state, we wouldn't be in this situation. And so it is owed to everybody who's in similar situations in states like Florida, and so on, and the rest of the South and across the country to make sure that people can actually vote.
A tremendous amount probably hinges upon us keeping the vote by mail stuff that we initiated because of a pandemic. The Republicans are super concerned about it. If we keep vote by mail, the GOP may never win another election, they say, which should speak to where their concerns are.
No, I mean we know, like the deniability has passed. They've all just come out and said it now.
Yeah,
that they believe that they should have the right to govern from the minority, and that is their official position. And
some Trumpy people in my life are like interpreting this, trying to interpret this in a charitable way for the GOP, and just saying like, well, it seems to me that I just have a feeling that low information voters are more likely to receive mail that says, here, you can just vote by filling this out, and go, oh, well, then I might as well vote for the Democrats. Which is an alarming...
I don't even see how that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Do you think, how do people vote anyway? Like, So, yeah. I mean, the direct next step of that argument is, so you're saying that people should have to pass some sort of like intelligence test, or like what they did in the Jim Crow South. There should be some sort of literacy or intelligence or like informed test to see whether you can vote or not. Yeah. We need to make it as hard as possible so that only people who care
people who have been radicalized by
fed this information by the people who you like can actually make it to the polls. That's obvious bullshit. The Republican strategy has been nakedly based on voter oppression, and now they're just admitting it.
Yeah.
So combating that should be a big step for making this an actually democratic country, and hopefully better things will come of that. Real direct accountability and that kind of thing. But in the short term, do you know how much I made an hour? Like, this is even, this was in 1998, I think I had my first job. So, there's been inflation since, but do you know how much I was paid an hour working for beloved independent bookstore Powell's Books?
I'm going to say like, I don't know. Tell me.
$6.50 an hour.
Wow. Yeah.
Is what I made in my first job. And I was a high school student, but there were a lot of people working that same job who weren't. And this is, Cuddly Pal's Books in Progressive Oregon, although, secretly, of course, Pal's Books is a shitty anti-union company. Which, should come as a surprise to no one, but I was in a position where the state passed a minimum, the state minimum wage was increased, and that increased my wage.
But Isaac, If we pay
Yeah.
burger flippers a living wage, then that might raise the prices of burgers by like $1 or so for the wealthier class who want to oppress the burger flippers. Don't you see the harm you'd be doing?
I'm just saying.
What we need
saying
in this
pay-
country,
pay-
Isaac,
pay
is
more
an
for your
army of
burgers.
starving burger flippers. Don't you understand
Exactly.
capitalism?
There's no incentive for them to work these, horrible jobs if they can maybe get by on just having one of them rather than two,
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that. It would be nice. It'd be nice. And it's actually on the table in a position where there is a chance in hell of it doing anything. So, before, again, the Democrats get that seizure of terror and anxiety that they get whenever it looks like they could actually affect anything and back off all of the stuff that they've been trying to put through when there was no chance that they could put it through.
They have been scoring a couple of own goals already.
Oh, yeah?
And mixed in, no one made them back off $2,000 checks. No one made them back off $50,000 of student debt relief. They did it themselves. They seem to like to take the kind of the debate is over. Here's our compromise position as their starting position whenever they have the opportunity to do so.
The check thing is ridiculous. Like, the idea was when we all got $600 checks a month ago for that to be $2,000, and now the idea is, well, we'll make those $2,000 retroactively by giving you another $1,400. That's not actually a back off of that position.
I disagree.
It's the same fucking position, and AOC needs to continue to go left of the party to maintain her brand.
It wasn't
so she's
AOC
making a big
who-
deal of it. It fucking was.
It was Joe Biden who tweeted, like during the Georgia elections, we need to send everybody $2,000 checks.
That was before we all got $600 checks.
No, man, it wasn't. It was during the Georgia
It was.
elections.
Ay. This is, well, I mean, what that exchange that we just had, that's a little preview of what you can expect from left discourse from here on out. But yeah, no, I agree. They should be giving us more money. And I do mean that. They can afford it. Money given directly to people is the best way to stimulate the economy. And so the more money they can afford to give, the better off we're going to be.
Yeah.
I would love it if there was a way for that money to get to the people who needed it most, like our buddy who, could really use that kind of money right now, but because of,
It's a bit fucked
how
that if you're not in a tax
marginal
bracket, you don't get anything.
Yeah. Or the marginal position that they're in already makes it much harder for them to actually think. Means testing for fucking vaccines. Just give the people what they need to have because it's good for the people to have it, and that's what you're giving them in the first place. You don't have to fucking spend all your energy making sure the people who don't deserve it don't get it. Okay, and am I back on the same page with
Oh, yeah.
with everybody now? Okay, then we're good. But anyway, yeah. So again, cautious optimism. And like I got the thing that I theoretically wanted, which is I got my own route at a station that isn't my station. I had my first day there yesterday, and all of the feelings that I've had since have all been, I've made a terrible mistake. I need to go back to my terrible station where I knew people and liked people. And, this route is long and difficult. I was happy where I was. Help. So, even though this is probably going to turn out to be a change for the better, I still feel miserable and anxious about it. And so, that
Best
I think
of luck.
informs the way that I look at the rest of the world.
With cautious optimism, let's hope.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to be optimistic.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be like, in the end, this will be good.
let's hope so. Cautiously.
Yeah. Try to think that into the world.
There's a really good nature documentary that came out on Netflix this year called Our Planet. It's more Attenborough, and this one has kind of, I think I've said before, like, I love these nature documentaries, although over the years they've kind of been taking on the tone of a eulogy. This one just kind of goes full on with that. It's like, here's some nature, and here's how fucked it is. There's some harsh footage in that. But also, like, the most amazing filming I've ever seen in a nature documentary.
Can you believe that we have now become so preoccupied with the various ways that we fucked ourselves over that we forgot that the world is ending in that particular way?
I didn't.
I mean, I can believe it. I mean, I know you didn't. Culturally, certainly, we have not heard about climate change in some time.
Yeah, it has receded a little into the background, hasn't it?
Yeah. But I'm sure that once we've come through another fire season next year, and it turns out that Donald Trump being president wasn't solely responsible for a lot of the country being on fire, that
Biden's running on carbon neutral by 2050.
Too late.
Way too late.
Way too late. And, neutral.
Yeah.
Too little, too late.
I'm in the parking spot. I'm in the parking spot already. And now I'm stuck in the parking spot because I got in the parking spot so good. Why'd you put a lamppost in the parking spot, huh? Why'd that have to be there? Like,
excellent question. As you struggle with this, I have to say I've been enjoying this sort of discursive old style trucks.
Yeah.
I hope that the people have also been enjoying it.
I hope so too. It has been a little bit free associative, but sometimes that's how we like it around here.
Yeah.
Are you seeing? I'm like Chinese fucking finger trapped in this streetlight.
Wow. I mean, I don't know what you're going to do about that. Besides
I really do just want to skip the parking, but this is such a unique problem that I kind of...
Keep going. We are absolutely over an hour on this trucks at this point. But don't let that stop you.
It's going to be another hour of me going back and forth across these few inches of space. Like,
you can do it.
This is the halfway point, right? So which way do I turn the steering wheel, and do I do it in reverse or forward gear? Also, my truck driver is falling asleep. He's beginning to yawn.
Oh no.
I'm gonna try forward gear, turn right. No, I'm gonna try reverse gear, turn right. Oh, that might. Okay, I'm gonna do those same two moves again and see if any progress is made. I think maybe a little. Let's keep going. It's that Austin Powers bit. It's like an inch. Oh, it looks like a lot more than an inch on that side. But on this side, it looks like just an inch.
That's the second time today that I have heard the Austin Powers golf cart bit referenced.
That bit is classic.
It's the best. You know that Tumblr post that kept going around from what I'm assuming is a fake novelization of Austin Powers, where they describe that sequence in detail? Have you seen that post?
No.
I have no idea how I would go about finding it, or I would send it to you. You know what? Oh, and you're falling asleep.
Yeah, I mentioned
that.
I think
it might be time for you to give up on this.
But it would be so satisfying to find a solution to this problem that I'll never get into again.
Well, I'm with you. I'm with you as long as it takes, and with any luck, whoever is still watching this is also with you as long as it takes. By the way, I feel like I've talked myself down multiple times over the course of this trucks, which is, with the self-deprecating jokes, which is a thing that nobody should do. And so I will, just as a note there.
That's another one of those themes.
I'm feeling particularly anxious this week for reasons that I've outlined, and so that's probably where that's coming from.
My therapist has been telling me to keep an eye out for those self-deprecating comments. I did it. I solved the problem.
Holy fuck!
I had to steer left while going forward and steer right while going backwards. Yeah, I'm not fully confident that we're completely in the clear here, but I think I should be able to Reverse.
No.
Making a little more progress.
Oh, Lord.
I'm gonna let that trailer hit it again. Okay.
I'm
now I'm gonna
fully invested in this now.
Oh. Come on, baby.
I was also listening to some random comedy bit where somebody was saying, you know, talking about skilled labor, like truck drivers are able to back into spaces like this on the first try are nothing short of magic.
Now we're
It's an incredible thing to be able to do. Imagine that this is actually you in real time having a quiet panic attack in the aisle behind this Walmart on the edge of Texas.
Just unlatch the trailer and roll it somewhere else.
Yeah. Are you hooked again? You're hooked again.
I'm a little hooked again, but I know the recipe to unhook myself.
Good. Do you have... Woo!
I don't think my truck driver would actually be as bored as he sounds. I think he would be embarrassed.
He's literally on
shocked
the verge of passing out.
Shocked awake by embarrassment. Oh.
What?
Something happened. I'm in a different position than I was previously. Here. Steer hard left.
Whoa.
Yes. Okay.
Whoa.
Now to contend with these wooden pallets. Now to go forward. Okay. I can take another attempt at parking. Here we go.
Oh my God! I'm absolutely chuffed to bits.
Reversing a truck like this is just the worst.
It is an incredible ordeal to have to go through in life.
You can barely even fucking see where that back trailer is going, you know? And, like, I don't fully understand how it's directed by the trailer in front of it. Okay.
Yeah.
I think... Let's...
God. You know, everything I feel is making me want to run back to my old station with my tail between my legs. I gotta just...
What's with the new station? What's
it's perfectly fine. It's just that it's a long route. The station's a little further away from me. Everything is way more professional at this station, which should be a good thing. You know.
Yeah, it should be. It isn't always.
It's operating way more like stuff is supposed to. But I've grown used to the sort of seat of the pants, you know, and being able to get away with shit.
Yeah.
You know, stuff at my old station where it's like I was still doing the job well, but you know. The brass head were too busy, like, being unable to deal with the problems around them to pay any attention to me.
Which, there's a comfort zone to that.
Yeah.
It feels more human in a way. Okay, here we go. We're coming in for our final approach. This time I'm gonna pay sharp fucking attention. I'm gonna let the luminance of the world soak in while I'm
paying an enormous amount of attention to this process.
My truck driver so wants to go to sleep. Walbert. Look at all these nice parking spaces you have, and look where you're making me go.
Well, you got the double. That's the problem.
I'm having doubts about this angle of approach already. I don't know. I think we can make it work.
God, the lion post. It's so nasty. I'm sorry I wasn't giving this the appropriate amount of shrift the first time that you did it.
Yes.
Oh my god. Yes!
All it took was a careful approach, and it counts as excellent. Can you believe it? Despite everything, Isaac.
I hope to take this energy with me into my next incarnation.
Thank God for trucks. Okay, everybody, we won't hold on to you any longer. Have a good one.
All right. Stay tuned for stuff. Bye-bye.